What is up, diehards? It is Monday. Welcome to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, sitting right here in this chair every Monday night, talking fights, trying to make you some cash. And I'm very, very pleased to say that I have earned myself the blue Die Hard Stimulus Check t-shirt. That's right. You know, we only wear it when we're coming off a winning event. And we had a damn good weekend this weekend. And on top of that, we hit a 3-1 underdog in Contender Series last week. We're on a nice little heater. We're getting back on track. Let's go. How's everybody doing today? First person in the chat, my guy, Rex Lee, excited for the show tonight. We've got Matthew Moore, John already hanging out, Joshua Eckholz. We got I'm Just Drew. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Levy White Bull with the fireball and popcorn, the Grateful Dude. Hector El Capo, what's up, buddy? You and me making some cash on the live stream this past weekend. Michael Lunday, the most OG of OG supporters here. We've got all the people rolling in. How's everybody doing this evening? Thank you all so much for showing up, spending your Monday night with me. Like I said, I'm in a hell of a good mood, coming off a solid winning weekend. And just to recap very quickly, we had some buy low spots on some awesome fighters that should have been way larger favorites. It was ladies' night. We hit Lipsky, we hit Pennington, and I got to tell you guys, I had that inside the distance sprinkle on Lipsky. It was right there. She could have finished that chick at any point in time. Couldn't quite get it done, which bummed me out just a little bit. The fence grab gave us a push on our fight-ready squad ride. I'm so frustrated about that because that was just a sit-back and coast victory that we absolutely should have gotten. So a little bit bummed about that. Ended up throwing on Ion Kutalaba in the end. 5.4 units worth of profit in one night. It was a damn good time. And then if you were rocking with us on the pub live stream, we put some extra cash in your pockets playing some of the other shit. So really solid night. I drank about a full bottle of Fireball. Had to get up for a NFL show the next morning and pull myself together for that. And then we made money on the NFL. I went 3 for 3 with my bets I gave out on that shit. Only thing we got left is first half Green Bay Packers minus 6.5 rocking tonight. Enough about that. Quick announcement. As you all know, I have thrown it out there. Brian Boom Kelleher is supposed to be joining us on the podcast tonight. He announced a fight today. The man has a new fight, a new contract, and it's a big deal. So he's in training. He hit me up and he said that he apologizes, but that takes precedence. He is going to join us for the main card portion if he's able to get done with his training session this evening. So Boom may or may not be joining us a little bit later in the evening. As soon as he gets here, we will pop him right on in. But I have another amazing guest for you. I have DFS royalty. I have a legend in the MMA sports betting community. None other than Kyle Marley himself rocking with us on the show tonight. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me on. It's good to talk to you for the first time, and then hopefully Kelleher later as well, because that's a huge fight he's gotten announced.
Hell yeah, man. First off, absolute privilege. I was stoked just to have you on the show, just you and me tonight. But when a guy like Brian, sticks his head in there and says, hey, Clint, I want to talk some fights, kind of got to move, get the UFC fighter involved.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't pass up on that either. I was excited to talk to you, but when you told me Kelleher wanted to be on, there's no way I could pass up on that.
Yeah, man, and he's been working with our boy Marab later on in the card, so hopefully he gets here by the time the main event or the main card rolls around. I would love to get his perspective, his first-hand experience with that. That'd be awesome. But until that point, man, I think we got enough knowledge between the two of us. We're gonna have a kick-ass show for the people.
I agree, man. I'm looking forward to it. We got a stacked pay-per-view, and hopefully we make a ton of money.
Hell yeah, dude. Let's do this thing. So I do want to ask real quick. I'm coming off a good weekend. How'd you do at UFC Vegas 37?
Definitely not as good as you. It was looking like it was going to be an all right week for me. But Arroyo ended up getting knocked out in that last round, so that cost me 2 units. I won 2 units on Kulaba, and then I lost, which one was it? Oh, Impa Kasangane. I had 2 units on him as well. So lost 2 units overall. Could have been worse. Man, whenever I start off losing 2 fights, I'm always like, all right, that third one's definitely done. There's no reason to even chase anything else. But at least Kulaba ended my night with a smile on my face, I'd say.
There you go. At least you were able to salvage it there with Kudalaba. That's I got in on that one last second too. I almost didn't pull the trigger just because you can never trust Ion Kudalaba, man. He always does something stupid, but he was absolutely the side there. So sorry to hear you had a little bit of a down night, but hey, it's gambling, man. We all go through those ups and downs, those swings.
Yeah, it's part of the game.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's go. We got a big card. UFC 266. We've already got 68 live viewers. Let's hit that retweet, hit that like button, let the YouTube algorithm know we're live and you guys enjoy the content coming to you here live and free on Pub Sports Radio. First fight of the evening. We have got an absolute banger. Now, I'm going based off of Tapology here, but I believe we are kicking our night off with Omar Morales taking on Jonathan Pearce. And I'm a little surprised. I thought this fight was going to be a little bit later on the card. And if they're starting the show, I mean, maybe the UFC is just looking to get this bad boy off hot because this is going to be one hell of a fight. Omar Morales, we know this guy's an absolute tank. The last time we saw him taking on Giga Chikadze, not a small feat, not something we can brush by here because Giga has been doing work in the UFC recently. Like, just the fact that he was able to stand and go 15 minutes with a guy like Giga Chikadze absolutely says something about Omar Morales. Jonathan Pearce, he's a guy out of Fight Ready, my absolute favorite gym on the planet. And I was looking to back him in his last fight. I was very, very excited to take him against Mowgli Benitez. I thought that was a great matchup for him, a great fight for him. His striking is really coming along. He's tall, he's long, he knows how to use that length, and his ground game is really solid. The problem for me here with the rebooking, man, is I don't know that he's going to be able to get Omar Morales to the ground. And I think that is a key part of Jonathan Pearce's game, is getting engaged in that grappling and the wrestling. Omar Morales has a phenomenal takedown defense, so I don't have the confidence in the dog here. Omar Morales about a minus 150 favorite at this point, and we can get... It looks like about plus 125 on Jonathan Pearce. Marley, what do you got on this one, man? Do you have a lean?
I don't really have a strong lean at all. I do think Omar is the better striker of the two. And like you mentioned, Pearce's best path to victory would be through the ground. And I don't know if he's going to have success with that either because Omar looks like he does have a good base and will be able to stuff takedowns here. So it might just be a striking match. Mm-hmm. But I like the potential in Pearce anyways. And he's the younger guy. I think every time out he's going to be improving a little bit more. Whereas with Omar, I feel like we know what we're going to get with him. This is the final product with Omar. So I wouldn't put it past Pearce, that's for sure. And I do think this line should be just a little bit closer to 50-50. So I would rather side with the underdog here rather than paying that 60% price on Omar. I think Pearce can keep it close on the feet, and then if he can land maybe one takedown, he could steal the round that way. So right now I'm leaning with the underdog. I still got to do more work on this fight, but my first pick was Pearce just because that line forced me to the underdog.
Okay. I think that's totally fair, man. I'm too scared to lay that chalk, like you said. I just don't think that that's the right implication. I'm high on Jonathan Pearce. I'm high on Fight Ready. I expect him to be good. I expect him to be improved. It's just that damn takedown defense of Omar Morales that's got me safe. I'm not quite sure that he's ready to stand with Omar Morales for 15 minutes with how hard that guy hits. So I'm probably going to pass on this first one, but as you put it, I do think it'd be a dogger pass. All right. So that's the first fight of the night out of the way. Let's keep this bad boy moving because we got a lot of fights to get to tonight. Second fight on the slate, Matt Semelsberger taking on Martin Sano. And this one is interesting for more than one reason. Matthew Semelsberger, kind of the MMA betting Twitter darling as of late. Absolutely everybody was on this guy against my boy Chaos Williams last time out. He's 8-3, a little short on experience, but improving. Got a big power advantage over most of his opponents. Taking on Martin Sano, UFC newcomer, 4-2. No experience whatsoever for this guy coming into the UFC. And the weirdest thing about it, man, is he is coming off of back-to-back losses and a draw. The UFC does not sign people off a losing record. And the reason is because he's Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz's boy. Like, he is a training partner, the main training partner, I think, for Nick Diaz. And that's the only reason he's on this card. Nick basically said, if I'm fighting, my boy's fighting. So Dana threw him to the wolves here. I think this one's super easy, Kyle. He's a gigantic favorite. I think Matt ends this thing by KO. When I watched the tape on Martin Sano, this guy doesn't do much of anything right. He leads with his face. He overextends on his punches. There's a reason the UFC wasn't looking for him, and if you do that against a guy that hits like Matt, I just think he's going to sleep. So I've got a parlay set up, and the first leg of that parlay is Matt Semelsberger on this card. Do you have anything that I'm missing here on this fight?
No, not at all. I had no idea how this guy got the opportunity until today when I heard that he was boys with the Diaz brothers, and that makes sense, I guess. But yeah, this guy he's not UFC ready. From what we saw, 4 years ago. This guy hadn't even fought in 4 years. He hasn't won since 2014. And back in those wins, he does not look good at all. He's super sloppy, offensively and defensively. He was getting taken down. He was the one getting taken down multiple times, actually, in the fight that he won by rear naked choke. And the guy just gassed out. He fell to his knees. The guy grabbed his back and got a rear naked choke. There was just nothing impressive about it. The only impressive thing about this guy is that he has a win over Jeff Neal in his very first pro fight. He got a rear naked choke there. I didn't see that fight, but I'd have to imagine that's not the Neal that we know of from lately anyways. So, yeah, it's a Semelsberger all the way, and I do think there's probably value in that line. I'd imagine it's going to keep going in his favor once people see how bad this kid really is. And, yeah, I agree. I think we're getting a first-round knockout here from Semelsberger. He's just not on this guy's level unless he has grown exponentially in these last 4 years or so.
Yeah, you never know. It's always a big question when people take that amount of time off. But, I mean, this is the kind of spot where if Matt touches him once, it's over. You know, even if he's made improvements, even if maybe he is UFC caliber now, like Matt still can knock the guy out. Uncle Weezy coming in here with the numbers as always. I like to call the man my stat bay because if I need a number, I'm headed to Uncle Weezy. It has been 5 years, and he was 0-2-1 in his last 5. Makes no sense why the matchup was made. I completely agree, Uncle Weezy. And my guy Ryan Grant, always looking for the head rub for good luck. There you go, buddy. You got it. All right. So early lining up here, me and my guy Big Marley agreeing that Matt Semelsberger should be winning this bad boy by knockout. And Sav, my friend, Boom Kelleher is training. He announced a fight today. For those of you who are not aware, Brian was supposed to come on the show with us tonight, but he just announced he got the big fish. He is fighting Sugar Sean O'Malley. She said yes to the ring finally, and he's working his ass off. So he may join us for the main card portion of the evening. I've already sent him the invite. If he gets done, he'll be hopping on the show a little bit later. Next fight coming up here, what we've got is Nick Maximov taking on Karl Roberson. Another sketchy ass fight, if you ask me, Kyle. Karl Roberson, 9-4. Maximov, 6-0, undefeated, making his UFC debut here. Now, Karl Roberson, we all have seen this guy before. He's fought in the UFC for a bit now. He's a former Glory kickboxer turned MMA fighter, but he still struggles with the grappling, even all of these years later. Like, all of his losses, 4 of them are by submission, and he has a 45% takedown defense here in the UFC. He likes to attack with the heavy leg kicking game. He likes to attack his opponent's legs. That's that kickboxing background coming in. He's got a real whipping head kick. He's dangerous if you let him stay at that range. He stalks opponents. He's explosive with a heavy one too. But it kind of seems like we've figured out Karl Roberson at this point. It seems like he's not throwing any curveballs in his game plan, and you know he's in trouble if you get him to the ground. Now, Nick is coming off of the Dana White's Contender Series. He fought at heavyweight on the Contender Series, and he fought just an opponent who had a really poor game plan. Cota decided he wanted to wrestle with the wrestler, and he was a big old fat dude with a bad gas tank. Just a bad idea for him to do it. Now, a lot is being made of Nick being like the Diaz protege. Everyone is super hyped on this kid. He's coming out of the Diaz camp. He likes to hunt for that takedown, forces scrambles, chain submissions. He is really dangerous on the mat. As somebody trained by the Diaz brothers, you would absolutely expect. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage here. The only thing is, man, I am not sold on this kid's striking. He is exactly the type of fighter you'd want against Karl Roberson because we know that guy's hole is the ground game. But I've seen him make some green mistakes. I've seen him slip up. I've seen him provide opportunities. And that's all a vet like Karl Roberson would need to put this kid in an absolute world of hurt. And it's a straight pick 'em. -10 on either side of the line. And I'm honestly not sure what to do with this one, man. Do you have any kind of a read on this fight or a play?
No, it's just too close. It's just striker versus grappler, and whoever can get their game plan to play out is going to win. Roberson should dominate on the feet, but I don't think Maximov is going to want to spend any time on the feet. I think he will be going for takedowns early and often. So I think Maximov wins the first round, and it could be a good live betting opportunity where you take Karl Roberson after round 1. Because I don't know that Maximov can chain wrestle hard enough for 15 minutes when he's at a clear disadvantage, in my opinion, on the feet. He is the younger guy. I'd expect him to improve every time out. But just from what I've seen so far, I don't know that I don't feel confident anyways that he can wrestle Roberson for 3 full rounds. Because even if he gets 2 rounds on the books, I'm not sure he's not going to get knocked out in the 3rd round. Because after this guy does go for some chain wrestling and he's back on his feet, he is huffing a little bit and shaking out his arms. So the cardio worries me a little bit, and this is just by far his toughest test. Whereas it's a big step down from Roberson. He was fighting Vettori. Yeah, I mean, right there, Brendan Allen, Teixeira, all those guys are much better grapplers, I'd assume, than Nick Maximov. So I'm just going to go with Roberson. I do think he should be a slight favorite here, but it wouldn't shock me at all to see Maximov win this fight and look like he should have been a -300 favorite. It's just I want to see it first because from what I've seen, I just can't back it with my money.
I can totally understand that angle, man. That makes perfect sense to me. And I kind of didn't think about that, but this is maybe the biggest step down in competition we've ever seen. Like a guy that you lost to, legitimately the #1 contender fighting for the title, to welcoming a UFC debutant straight off the Contender Series. Like, there is not a more drastic step down in competition than that. And my guy, Nerds and Virgins, coming to the rescue here. If Karl Roberson is in fact now working with James Krause, that's a key that I missed there. I'm a huge fan of Krause. I love what the guy does. His game planning is second to none, and they favor the grappling. Man, Kyle, I don't know if you've noticed, but anybody coming out of the Krause camp, it's all about the wrestling. It's all about the takedowns. It's all about the grappling. They're going to sharpen up Karl Roberson's takedown defense with him just working with that crew. And if his takedown defense is just a little bit better, that's probably all he needs. I may end up taking that dart throw on Karl Roberson. Plus, there's the Dana White Contender Series fade in full effect here. I love fading Contender Series fighters in their first UFC fight because of that drastic jump in competition. So it was a complete pass for me, but I'll be honest, man, after kind of talking it out with you and a little bit of help from the chat, I'm going to do my research and make sure he is actually with Krause, but that might get me on Roberson. Yeah,
I mean, plus money, I'd probably be down with that too. And yeah, I did hear he was training with Krause here, so maybe that's what he needs. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, definitely a risky play, but I don't know. Time. My guy Connor McPix showing up. What's up, buddy? Thank you very much for hanging out and tuning in. Aaron A, there he is. All right. So real quick, everybody, you know I got to shout out my sponsors. Goat Capital Sports. Those guys have been with me since day one. Make sure you check them out on Twitter at GoatCapital_. They can keep you covered in basically every other sport under the sun. I give you a little bit of degenerate action on NFL and NHL, mostly MMA, but they've got golf picks. They do soccer. They do all kinds of stuff with Goat Capital Sports. Really awesome dudes. Had a bit of a rough weekend this weekend, but they were absolutely slaying it for the last 2 weeks prior to that. $25 sign-up membership, risk-free, so if you lose with their picks, you get a refund. They love me over there. Ask them about the promo, Die Hard. See if they will still honor that. It was only for 2 weeks before the NFL season started, but maybe they'll let you in. I don't know. Check them out at GoatCapital_ and get going. Let's get some cash. All right. Next fight up, we're talking my girl, Kyle. Manon Fiorot, the beast. I couldn't think of a better nickname for this chick than that. And she is taking on Mayra Bueno Silva. This is such a fun fight to me, man. I saw Manon Fiorot coming a mile away. And when she made her UFC debut, I hammered this girl. I knew she was going to be something special. I love the way that she strikes, and she's an absolute monster on the feet. But the secret's out. The problem is, now everybody knows how good Manon Fiorot is. In fact, she opened up minus 225 in this spot. She's already been bet down to minus 260, so she's a huge favorite here. Lots of kicks. She's got that nice side kick that everyone's calling to be illegalized at this point. She's got a strong lead hand. She always attacks in combinations. It's never just the one and done. She's got a good size, a good frame for the division, and she's elusive. She is hard to hit. She's defensively sound, very physically strong, big elbows, good takedown defense. I love everything I see from her. She just needs a little bit of time to get adjusted, get some experience under her belt, and I think she's going to be a problem. Now, Mayra, on the flip side, has the exact same record. Both these women are 7-1. She's very dangerous on the feet, and everyone has been trying to take her down in the UFC because of it. She attacks the low calf kick. She's got good Muay Thai. She's strong on that plum. If for anybody that doesn't know, that's when they get the back of your neck controlled that way. She has big, dangerous clinch knees, does Bueno Silva. And she's dangerous off her back, man. Explosive submissions. She got Jillian Robertson in an armbar. I mean, if that tells you anything about her, how good her subs are, if she was able to catch that. The problem for me is Mayra doesn't move her head. She's willing to bite down and go to war, and that could be a problem in this spot. If you don't move your head off the center line and you start swinging with Manon Fiorot, you could be in for a short night. I want to pick Manon Fiorot to win this fight, but honestly, man, I feel like this line is just way too wide. I feel like this is a hype situation. I feel like Fiorot has just gotten all the attention, and as much as yeah, Peter, as much as I want to lock my first simp bet of the night in, I can't, because I can't argue with the fact that these two are probably competitive on the feet, and realistically, I think Mayra probably has a jiu-jitsu advantage if it were to hit the ground. Talk to me, man. Am I overlooking something here?
No, I totally agree. So I'm picking Manon Fiorot to get the win, but at 72%, I just think that's way too high. Maybe even like 10% too high. I could see this being around a 62% line. But this is her toughest fight to date, and somebody who can actually hang with her on the feet. I do give Fiorot the edge. I think she does win this fight more than she loses it, just not 72% of the time. So it's dog or pass for me on the betting line. It wouldn't shock me to see Silva get a knockout. Same thing with Fiorot. Either one of them have dangerous hands, kicks as well. So wouldn't shock me to see the knockout. But I think we're going to get a close 15-minute striking battle here where I just give Fiorot the edge. Yeah, if I'm going to take my money to the counter here, I'd be betting Silva. I'd rather just take that money dog line underdog line instead of laying that minus 260. It's too high for a fight that is really close in my opinion, and I think it's just people riding the hype. Maybe they're not even looking into Bueno Silva here. They just know that Fiorot's a beast, that she could be a future title contender, and they want their money on her. So dog or pass, but I am going to take the favorite to get the win.
Dude, I couldn't have said it better myself. And I mean, it just seems like a spot where we've forgotten about Bueno Silva. Like, do you remember the hype around Bueno Silva? When she first got off the Contender Series, she was like Fiorot. Everybody was ready to crown this chick the next title contender.
Yeah, I mean, and she's scary too.
She's terrifying.
If she had Fiorot's last two fights, I don't know that she wouldn't be the favorite here, because I think she would have brutalized them as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Even my 60% line, not 60, I would go over 60%. But maybe that's too high. I don't know. I'm excited to see this one play out, but I don't think I'm going to be touching it with my money, because I don't want to bet against Fiorot, because I do think she's the real deal. But at the same time, I can't bet on her.
I'm right there with you, man. It pains me. It pains me because I want to ride Fiorot to the bank every opportunity that I get, but this is too big of a number. And for anybody just tuning in, for anybody who's new to the show, we are talking sports betting. This is not just a picks show, that kind of thing. So we are looking to make cash. And at minus 260, that's a price tag you don't want on this fighter. She's a good fighter. Maybe she wins. Heck, when I do my degenerate Hail Mary that covers the entire card, which I hit last week, mind you, I will have Fiorot in there because I'm picking her to win. but don't invest piles of money at minus 260 because the price is just wrong for this type of a fighter in this particular spot. All right. And you know what? I do want to shout out my guy again, Peter, as far as the simp bets. It is no simp September, my friend. So I bet on a couple of women already, but they are not simp bets. We're looking to ride to the bank. Let's go. Next fight up, Uroš Medić taking on Jalin the Tarantula Turner. Now, I do have a little bit of hatred in my heart for Jalin because I can't stand spiders. So I don't like his fight name. But besides that, I love everything I see out of this kid. He's got a great frame for the division. He's tall. He's long. He's taken off a little bit of a break, so I expect improvements from him. He's a young fighter who's on his way up. He's dangerous everywhere, man. People don't realize how nasty the ground game of Jalin Turner is because he beats people up on the feet. Like, he's a good striker. He hits hard, and then if he follows you to the floor, he can just snap you off once you get down there. Now, Uroš Medić on the flip side of this thing, he's undefeated. There's a lot of hype surrounding this kid, and he is the flag bearer for the Alaska FC, like the worst regional MMA scene on the planet today. I tried to fade Uroš in his last fight, and everybody mocked me because of how good he is. But I'm like, bro, if you come from Alaska FC undefeated, I'm not impressed. Like, you got to show it to me. And here he is in another spot where he's minus 125 over a dangerous veteran who's had a ton more experience than him at the UFC level. This is a spot where I'm extremely tempted to go back to that well. I almost feel like you got to prove it to me yet again. Both these guys have fight-ending power. Both these guys are tall. Both these guys are long. But Jalin Turner has a 6-inch reach advantage here in this spot. I almost feel like at worst it should be pick'em, and maybe Jalin should be the favorite. At plus 105, man, I'm taking a hard look at the dog here. How do you feel about this fight?
I agree again. I do think Jalin Turner should be a slight favorite in this one. Medić has never even been 6 minutes in a pro fight before, and this is his toughest fight to date. I think the fact that he's got power, he ends fights early, and Turner's been knocked out 3 times might be playing into the line a little bit. That is my worry here, is that Turner gets knocked out just in the first round. But I think the longer this fight goes, the more it's going to play into Turner's favor. If he can get takedowns of his own, I think he can shine on the ground. But I'm going to take Turner to get the knockout. I think he's the better striker of the two, and if his chin holds up, I think he's the one to win this fight. So I agree. I think the line probably does move into his favor, just because I don't understand why Medić would be the favorite right now. Maybe there's something I'm missing, but I could see me making a play on Turner later in the week if he's still at plus money.
Yeah, it just doesn't, man, it's just backwards to me. It doesn't make sense. It's very much like the spots last week where I was on Lipsky and I was on Pennington. You've got a proven commodity. You know they can win at this level, and they're getting a step down. They're taking on somebody who's unproven, and we have a lot of questions about. Now, sometimes they show up like McGregor, and they're going to run through everybody. Maybe Medić is the next beast. Maybe he is the next title contender. Like, I might be playing right into that, but I'm more than willing to take my chance to fade him, because usually these discount prices, I feel like we usually end up being on the right side. Like, nobody's quite as hyped as they should. Or, sorry, I said that backwards. Nobody is actually as good as they are hyped, usually speaking. It's very rare that somebody lives up to the hype when they come in. All right. I do want to go back and shout out Paul Lama. Both Alaskans listening are going after Clinton. Both Alaskans. I love it. That's a nice little subtle poke there. That's a good one. Okay, so I've got my first dog of the night, and I know the comments are going to get lit up here. Y'all absolutely hate when I bring guests in and they agree with me. But Kyle and I have never done a show before. Kyle and I have never talked in person before this evening. So the fact that we're agreeing on these fights without any interaction whatsoever, and not only that, but the man is an MMA betting genius. He's a legend in the space. Like, I'm not pre-planning this shit. Just letting you know. I know you're already typing your hateful comments, but don't let it bother you. Next fight up, man. My girl. Roxanne Modafferi. I'm going to have a bad day when she hangs it up, man. I'm going to have such a hard time when she retires. Taking on Taila Santos. Now, my girl Roxy is getting so close so close to that rule, man. 40 years old. The rule is you don't back fighters that are 40 years old unless you've got a damn good reason to do it, and she's 39. So she's right there knocking on that door. And for whatever reason, I moved that bar down with the women just a little bit. The men seem to hang on until, we've seen some legends in men's MMA going off to, 45, stuff like that. So every once in a while you get a special case that breaks that rule. But for the women, usually they start to sputter out, I feel like, at 36, 37, 38. So I tend to lower that bar. Roxy is over that bar for me. So if I'm going to back her, I've got to have a damn good reason to do it. At this point, we all know about Roxanne Modafferi, right? She is the most unathletic fighter in the UFC, and I think that's part of why I love her so much. She got where she is off of straight up hard work and technique. Like, she is still here competing at the highest level and pulls the upset out of her ass every once in a while just because she is willing to work harder than anybody out there, and she learns and she uses her brain. I love it. It's such a cool underdog story every time she wins. And she's got great wrestling, man. I mean, great, maybe a bit of an overstatement, but she's strong. She's worked on her strength and conditioning. If she gets that body lock, she drags you to the floor. She wet blankets you. She's got dangerous BJJ if she is in a top position. And her striking is awkward. Her striking is bad, but it's awkward. Like, people have a hard time figuring it out because her timing is not what it should be. She doesn't do anything she's supposed to. She's not where she's supposed to be. So it's hard for people to get a handle on her. Taila Santos, good wrestling, explosive, strong. She does a good job with the teeps. She's obviously going to have a striking advantage here, big clinch knees, and she is more than happy to engage in the grappling. She's got an 85% takedown defense. But what I noticed is if you go back a couple of fights, Taila Santos gives up the trips. She's not going to give up the blast double. She's got a great sprawl on her, but she gives up the trips. And that is Roxanne Modafferi's go-to move. When she gets you into that body lock, if she gets you up against the fence, she sweeps that leg. She gets a foot behind your ankle. She trips you and gets you down to the floor. And she's not going to be undersized in this spot, man. When Roxanne Modafferi loses a fight, it's because she is overpowered. It's because she is smaller. It's because she's not as strong as her opponent. Now, I don't know if she's physically stronger than Taila. Obviously, based on looks, you would think Taila Santos would be the stronger of the two fighters, but we know as MMA fans that's not always the case. And I feel like this is a prime bed-shitting line, man. We've got Taila Santos as a minus 400 favorite, plus 300 on Roxanne Modafferi. And my degenerate hand is just hovering over. Now, this would be a simp bet. This would be the spot where I say there's a ton of value on my girl Roxanne Modafferi to pull the upset and just wet blanket her way to a win. I know it's on the bottom likely end of the spectrum of how this fight ends, but I'd be lying if I'd say that I didn't feel like there's value there, man. How do you feel about this fight?
Yeah, this will be the one I disagree with you on. I mean, maybe if you're just watching like the Mara Borello fight, I could get there. But if I watch any other fight on this girl, I just don't know how she's going to lose to Roxy. Well, I know how she would lose. It would be by getting wet blanketed. Roxy has a strong and dominant top control game. She just struggles getting it there, and that's kind of what I see happening here. Is I don't think she's going to be able to get takedowns. Maybe she can win around that way, but I think she gets messed up on the feet here. It's levels in this fight on the feet, and if she is unsuccessful with those takedowns, I think she's going to get brutalized here. I'm kind of worried for her, honestly, because everybody likes Roxy. She's like the nicest, sweetest fighter, but this is a dangerous fight if she's unable to land takedowns. So I'm going to go the other way. I do think the line is justified. I honestly don't even know if it's high enough. I don't know if I give Roxy a 20% or higher chance in this fight when I don't even know that she'll be 20% successful with her takedown. So I'm going to go with Santos here, and I think she gets a TKO.
Okay. And I was going to follow up and see about that, because the one thing that's really given me pause is I feel like Roxanne Modafferi's durability might be slipping. In her last fight, we saw her get rocked and rocked badly. Normally speaking, I don't think of Taila Santos as much of a finisher, and in this kind of spot, I feel like Roxy could at least grapple her way to a decision. But with that waning durability we saw last time, do you think she gets the KO, and how do you think she gets it done?
Yeah, I mean, the durability didn't hold up forever, and she turns 39 on Friday. She's taken some beatings before, and I feel like she's such a sweetheart that if you're a ref in there and it's not going her way, you're going to be a little bit quick to step in, right? You just want to protect her, right? So I could just see it going that way. She eats some big shots. She's not out or anything, not sleeping, but where the ref steps in and saves her from a worse beating. That's kind of how I see it going down.
I got you. That does make sense, man. It really does. And that's where, I mean, if you give me Roxy 2-3 years ago, I might be brave enough to take the shot. I don't know if I don't know if I'm gonna get there. But if I could build a fighter that was going to spoil Taila Santos, it would be someone like Roxy with the skill set of Roxy. Unfortunately, she's a little past that prime. She's a little past that number, and the way she got wobbled last time out just was not good. All right, man. We're going to go ahead and roll on to the next fight here. We got Chris Daukaus. Chris Daukaus taking on Shamil Abdurakhimov. There is a big question here for a lot of us when it comes to Chris Daukaus. He has been maybe the hottest prospect since he got to the UFC. No one was expecting much of him. Big, flabby boy, rolling in, heavyweight style. But we learned real quick that Chris Daukaus is an absolute monster. He's got that hand speed going for him. He's got tight boxing. He's a BJJ black belt. And I've talked about it a couple of different times. There is just something about these fighters that transform their bodies. The longer he is in the UFC, the more improvements we see him make. And he is turning into a fighter. He went from that roly-poly pudgy heavyweight to now he's looking more like his younger brother. You're starting to see the muscles. You're starting to see the abs. You're starting to see the chest. Like, I freaking love Chris Daukaus. He's my sleeper heavyweight. I am a huge fan of this man. 11-3, so far doing well in the UFC. He's taken on Shamil Abdurakhimov, though, who is 20-5. And here's my big thing, man. Here is my thing. Is that Shamil is such an underrated fighter. There are so many people now on the Daukaus train, very much like Manon Fiorot. I feel like the secret is out. We have all come to love Chris Daukaus at this stage, and people forget all about Shamil because we haven't seen him for a couple of years. This guy is extremely well-rounded. He's got heavy hands. He's a strong grappler. He's very strong physically and powerful at heavyweight. He is fully capable of getting in here and spoiling a young up-and-comer. He's got that veteran savvy. And, man, the biggest issue for me, Kyle, is that this is a rebooked fight. The last time this fight happened, our boy Chris Daukaus was a -200 favorite. We all were on Chris Daukaus. Hell, I was on Chris Daukaus. He got up to -200. They rebooked the fight a couple of weeks later. And you know what they did? They opened it up at -150. So bookies are not dumb. They are not stupid people. They live by taking advantage of us and tricking us into giving them money where we shouldn't. When we destroy the bookies on a line and that fight gets rebooked, you never get a better line. They open it up higher the next time so that they protect themselves from that risk because they realize maybe they got the cap wrong. This stinks of a trap line to me, man. It really feels like the bookies saw that everyone loves Chris Daukaus, and not only did they see that, but they made it more affordable for us to bet Chris Daukaus the second time around. And right now, my boy Daukaus is sitting right around -200, -195. You can get a couple of 180s out there in the market, but it's gotten about where it was last time. And that red flag, that alarm bell going off of the bookies opening it up lower and more affordable for us to pile on again, I can't get past that. I want to pick Chris Daukaus. I want to bet Chris Daukaus. And I'm terrified that somebody knows something I don't. How do you see this fight playing out?
I mean, the last time they were scheduled to fight, he was under 40, but now we got your 40 rule going on. This guy's 40 years old. I think we should have got a worse line on Daukaus here. So, yeah, maybe it does feel a little bit trappy, but I got to go with Daukaus in this one. I mean, he's been putting up enough strikes in one round as Shamil does in 3 rounds. Inactivity just kills me in fights, and I don't see how Shamil can win this fight on the feet other than a knockout. He's just going to get doubled up or tripled up on strikes. And Dawkins talks a big ground game. It wouldn't shock me to see him being the better ground fighter either. And I don't think Shamil would really submit him. I think it would be just he's heavy in top control. Maybe he can win 2 rounds that way. But at 40 years old, I have a hard time believing that he's even got a gas tank to go a hard 3 rounds with wrestling. So I'm all over Dawkins here. I mean, he's on the board for a possible bet, possible parlay piece. I think there's a number of parlay pieces on this card, and I just don't know my favorite 2 yet. But he's up there, and I do like him to get the win here. I don't know if he gets that first-round knockout like we've been seeing, but if he doesn't, I think he wins on the scorecards as well. So give me Dawkins maybe however he wants to, except I'd be pretty surprised if he submitted this guy.
Okay. Man, I totally respect the take, and maybe my guy JT Kill in the chat is right. Maybe I am thinking too much. I'm going to go ahead and pick Chris Dawkins, but I got to be honest, I've been doing a good job of dodging some bullets lately. I've been avoiding some pitfalls lately, and that's been a big benefit to me getting back on track and getting in the positive. And I am listening to that tingle on the back of my neck. I'm listening to that feeling that tells me that there's something wrong here. I think speed kills. I've said that time and time again. And Chris Dawkins' hand speed advantage here in this spot, in my opinion, is maybe the most significant part of this fight. Like, he's so freaking fast. I think he can piece up Shamil Abdurakhimov. I just can't get past the fact that I think something's wrong here. And I think I'm going to play it safe on this particular fight simply because of that. All right, we are cooking with gas, man. We are moving right along through this card, trying to keep up with the chat and everything at the same time. Everybody seems to be counting in there on the Dawkins side. I get it. Next fight up, we got Dan the Hangman Hooker taking on Nasrat Haqparast. This one is interesting for some non-fighting reasons, Kyle. We've got a weird situation going here with both of these guys. Some serious baggage being brought into the cage on Saturday. This is a spot where Dan Hooker just got his travel visa. He actually had to make a call out to the internet. MMA Twitter saved this fight because Dan Hooker was not getting any attention trying to get his visa to get over here to fight. And with all of us hammering the tweet online, he finally got it. And they're loading him up on a plane, I think, in just a couple of days. So he's making the trip over. He is not going to have time to acclimate over here in the United States. And if I'm being honest, I think there's a big fatigue factor that's going to go into that. I think there's a big issue potentially with his weight cut going into that because Dan Hooker is not a small man fighting at 155. You got to wonder how his weight cut is going in the midst of all this. So I think there's a big question mark around that. And then on the flip side of this fight, his opponent here, Mini Gastelum, Nasrat Haqparast, he has just lost his mom. Like, I can't put into words what that would feel like. I feel so bad for this man. And the fact that he's willing to dig deep and still go through with this fight and do it in his mom's memory, like, I've talked about it before on the show, what losing a loved one can do for these fighters, and there's 2 paths. For some people, the emotion is too heavy and it ruins them. And you can see they're just a shell of themselves when they get there. And then there's other fighters that come in and it really is a breath of fresh air. It fills their sails and they absolutely destroy their opponent. And you can see the emotion only comes out after the fight is done and they've gotten their hand raised. So we don't really know which one of those two Nasrat Haqparast is going to be. And that's a big question mark for me as far as betting goes because mentally speaking, I have no idea where this guy is at right now. So I'm going to be listening very closely to the fighter interviews this week. But at the bottom line, man, if we took all the extra stuff, all those extra factors out of this fight, it's Dan Hooker for me. Dan Hooker is going to be bigger, taller, longer, 3-inch reach advantage. I think he's the better fighter of the two. You know, he's training with guys like Israel Adesanya. This is another step down situation where he's fighting the number 1 contender, the guy that just fought for the title last time out, and now he's getting a mid-tier guy. Nasrat went 15 minutes with a short notice fill-in who wasn't as good as we all thought he was in the end. I just think there's a big skill gap. I think there's a big level difference. But it concerns me the travel for Dan, and it concerns me being knocked out dead by Michael Chandler just a couple of months ago, coming into a fight with a kid with fast hands. So complete pass for me on this one. This is fireball and popcorn. I am not going to be betting on this fight. I just want to sit back, have some fun, and hope one of these guys gets knocked out. It's going to be hard to cheer against either guy given what they're up against just going into this fight. What about you, man? Are you brave enough to bet on this one?
I don't think so. I was thinking hack press was a possible play earlier today when I was looking at the fight, but the line has dropped on him a little bit. I don't know, man. The flight is a real worry for me. This guy is supposed to get in like Thursday or something like that. Mm-hmm. And New Zealand is 19 hours ahead of Las Vegas. So I just don't know how you're going to adapt that quickly. And has he been preparing to do this? I wouldn't think so with visa issues. I'm thinking he thought he was going to be here sooner. And I wouldn't think his sleep schedule is adjusted enough for this. So that's a real big worry for me.
Yeah.
The losing the mother's definitely, I mean, that sucks. But I have no idea how to handicap that, where I think there's no way you can think that the flight thing's a benefit on the hooker side. So at this point, I still think it's dog or pass. I was thinking like the most I could give hooker was a 60% line, and right now it's like 61. So it's just too close. I think the books got it right at this point, where you do got to favor hooker. He's the better fighter from what we've seen. But that fight with Poirier was brutal, man. He took a brutal beating, and then he comes back and gets knocked out in the first round in his next fight. So I don't know that that's not going to be a thing that continues at this point. And hack press is good. He's got fast hands. He's got high output, which I always love, and he's hard to hit. So I think this is going to be a really close fight. I have it like a split decision either way, and I almost always want to side with the underdog in that type of scenario. So give me hack press. Hope he does it for his mom.
Man, so I'm right there with you when it comes to if you think a fight is going to a split decision, like if that's how it plays out in your head that it's going to be close, it's going to be tight, then regardless of the cap, bet the dog. Like if you're flipping a coin, if you've got a 50-50 shot on a coin and you're getting plus 150 on one side and minus 200 on the other side, take the 150. Like if you really think it's that close, absolutely bet the dog. I love that angle. I love that thought process. And I love cheering for the guy who lost his mom. So I don't hate that whatsoever. It's one of those things. I can't get past it that in my heart of hearts, I believe Dan Hooker is the better of the two fighters. So I'm going to be on the other side. I'm going to side with the favorite here in this spot. But again, just too many outside questions for me to actually bet it. Shout out Locker Room. What's up, buddy? Thanks for jumping in on the show. A couple people asking in the chat whether or not they've missed Boom Kelleher. I'm going to repeat it a couple times. Sorry for those of you who have been there, but we don't want the new guys, new guys and ladies to miss out. Boom Kelleher is training. He announced a fight today. So if he can get done with his training in time, he'll be joining us for the main card or the last couple fights of the night. But unfortunately, he hooked a big fish. So the guy's got a little bit more on his plate than he was planning to tonight. All right, so moving the show right along. This is another big-ass card, man. We're getting to the main card portion of it, but we still got four fights or so to talk about. I mentioned before that I have a parlay, and this is the fight that's closing it out. I'll give you just a little bit of a hint right there as to what side of this line I'm on. Marlon Moraes take on Merab Dvalishvili. Marlon Magic Moraes, former title challenger, and one of the staples in this division, been around forever. Everybody knows Marlon Moraes at this point, but kind of a shell of himself. Merab Dvalishvili, the machine. We all know I love my Georgian Warriors. We all know I love to back these guys because they are just made out of something else. And this guy just goes. He's the freaking Energizer Bunny. He never, ever stops. And I left myself a note here. Y'all know I like to call fighters glass cannons when they've got durability issues. That's not Marlon Moraes. He's a gas cannon. He's not. It's not that he's not durable. It's that he gets tired. If you can wear this guy out, it reminds me a lot of Conor McGregor. He is a shell of himself when he is tired. If he can maintain his composure, if he can get the fight he wants where he can monitor his cardio, he's durable as hell. He's one of the toughest guys in the UFC. But as soon as you wear him out, he cannot keep up and looks for that door. And that's all I need to know here. Merab Dvalishvili is a grappling specialist, a chain wrestler, a guy that will take you down and put a pace on you like nobody else. He simply breaks his opponents here. He's bigger. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. I love Merab in this spot. He is closing out my parlay from earlier in the night with Matt Semelsberger. The only danger is, once again, this reminds me a lot of Abdurakhimov Al Hassan. High-level fighter, coming off a couple losses in a row. We got to sweat round one. Marlon Moraes is fully capable of finishing any man in that division in the first round. His kicks are thunder. He can take anybody out with a head kick at any point in time. He's got a tight squeeze. He can grab the neck on a takedown and has a big-time jiu-jitsu edge once it gets down to the ground. I favor the wrestling of Merab. I think he keeps himself safe, but round one is absolutely going to be a sweat. Big Marley, what's your look in this fight, man?
Yeah, I agree. Moraes used to be one of the best fighters in the world back when he didn't have like the same drug tests and everything. But now he's just a completely different guy. He landed 2 takedowns on Rob Font, and it was over. He just had nothing left in him. You could just see it go out of him right there. He started shaking the arms out, and I was like, okay, here we go. It's Font time, and then it ended shortly afterwards. That's not a good thing when you're going.
Fight was going to go that fast, man. I was on Font that night, and I was like, no way is it going to be that quick.
I mean, I'm sure Marlon didn't either. He was like, I'm going to go in there and wrestle. People haven't seen my wrestling. And then he's like, oh, that's really tiring. I can't do that. But Merab can, and Merab can do it longer and harder than anybody else. If he's fighting off takedowns from Merab, that's not going to be good for his gas tank. I think this is knockout or guillotine or bust for Moraes. Those are his only paths to victory. He cannot win this fight over 3 rounds. Even if this was a striking match, he is the better striker of the two. But he's never even landed 60 significant strikes in a UFC fight. And one thing about Merab, he's not a great striker, but he is always working. He's always throwing strikes when on the feet. And just if it was striking, I think he's going to double him up on strikes, and he could win that way. But that's not how it's going to be. He's going to be going for takedowns. He's going to be landing them. And it's just going to be too much for Moraes. I think he might actually finish Moraes just from some ground and pound where maybe he's kind of quitting and the ref pulls him off type deal because he doesn't have the gas tank to go on. I totally agree. I think Merab's a solid parlay piece here. It's just that mainly the guillotine. I'm not even as worried about the knockout because I don't think Merab will want to strike with him too much early in the fight. I just think he's going to be going for takedowns constantly in round one. And it's more, can he grab that neck or not for me? If not, I think it's going to be a long night for Moraes. So give me Merab.
Okay. All right, man. I'm glad we agree on that one. This is one of those spots where I know it's kind of the square side, the public side. We all think that Marlon Moraes is done at this point. He's cooked, and we've all been burned by that. So I'm a little afraid lining up on that side every time. But, hey, square doesn't necessarily mean wrong. I think there's definitely an opportunity here. Merab is the kind of fighter that you can feel comfortable. You can feel comfortable and confident with. That's where comfortable came from, by the way. Confident and comfortable kind of got meshed together there in my brain. He just doesn't quit. He's a guy that swims upriver. Like, this guy does not stop, and that's death for Marlon Moraes. Like you said, he's got to head kick him, or he's got to get that guillotine on him on that first takedown in round one. Otherwise, his goose is absolutely cooked in this spot. So glad we line up there. Like I said, I got a parlay on it. I think I've got 2.6 units to win 2 on the parlay of Marlon Moraes and Matt Semelsberger. So far, that's my only bet on this card. So that's where I'm sitting at the moment.
You mean Merab Dvalishvili, not Marlon Moraes.
Thank you for correcting me. Yes, Merab Dvalishvili parlayed with Matt Semelsberger. Thank you for catching that. And I do, real quick, want to ask you, though, Big Marley, we don't usually talk DFS on this show because I am just getting my feet wet as a DFS player. I don't know shit, but this seems like a no-brainer to have Merab the Machine as a piece in DFS, right?
Yeah, Merab is what we like to call DraftKings gold. Grappling always pays out the most points, if you want to say it that way, in DraftKings. And somebody who can land over 10 takedowns is just going to be able to break a slate with points that strikers will never really be able to touch unless their name is Max Holloway. And I meant to mention that earlier on the Maximov Roberson fight. I think one good way to use Maximov is in DraftKings. If he's going to win this fight, it's going to come through grappling. It's going to be either a lot of takedowns or it's going to be a ton of top control time, maybe even a submission. Either way, if Maximov gets the win, he's going to score well on DraftKings. So I wouldn't want to bet him, but I will have my fair share of DraftKings lineups on Maximov. And then, yeah, right here with Merab, anytime Merab fights, I'm always in on DraftKings. He'll probably be – well, we got another DraftKings Gold fighter coming up here in a little bit. But other than that, he might be my highest owned fighter on the card.
Okay. I like it, man. And Boston Nick in the house, what's up, buddy? Thanks for coming in and joining the show. We appreciate the gold nuggets here, Marley. A lot of people keep asking me about the DK stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know shit, man. I don't want to give any advice on DK because I'm still figuring the thing out myself. So thank you very much for the tips and tricks for the people. Next fight coming up, we are back to the ladies. We have got, man, the monster herself, Jessica Andrade, taking on Cynthia Calvillo, and I cannot wait to talk to you about this fight because, believe it or not, I think there's going to be some hot takes on this one. I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth in the community here. We've got Jessica Andrade, former champion, 21-9, taking on Cynthia Calvillo, who is 9-2-1. Now, Jessica is coming off the loss in her title shot. She got simply outsized and overpowered by Shevchenko. But we know that Jessica Andrade is extremely dangerous no matter where this fight goes. She's fast, she's explosive as hell, and since moving up a weight class to 125, that seems to be magnified. She seems to be hitting harder with that extra weight on her frame, which is surprising. I kind of thought that the knockouts would come a little easier at 115, but she absolutely still has that power at 125. She's able to fully body and slam chicks to the floor if she wants to get it there. Good wrestling, BJJ black belt. Like, you like everything you see from Jessica Andrade. Now, Cynthia Calvillo on the other side, she also is a former 125 or 115er moved up to 125. So because of that, I feel like it almost negates a little bit of where if people want to talk about Jessica Andrade being at a disadvantage for being undersized or something like that, these two women both made 115 not that long ago. So they're not that far out of each other's ballparks. Now, Cynthia Calvillo, nice footwork. Sharp, technical boxing. I like what I see from her in that area. Good offensive wrestling. However, even though she's got a 2-inch reach advantage here, I feel like that's going to play negatively for her. I feel like she overextends on some of her punches. And even though she's got sharp boxing, I don't believe she has any pop on her punches. We've seen her get in there and throw high volume, but she doesn't seem to sting or hurt anybody and really relies on that grappling to get it done. Man, I think Andrade is going to knock her out. And I know that may not be a super hot take because of how hard she hits, but I just think when they clash in the striking realm, I think Andrade is going to be faster, and she's definitely going to hit harder. And I'm not convinced that Cynthia Calvillo can take Jessica Andrade to the mat. And if she does get her there, I'm not convinced she's going to keep her there. I'm ready to be all in on Jessica Andrade in this spot. And if I didn't already parlay Merab, Andrade would have been the other leg that I wanted to parlay with. So talk to me about this fight, man.
Yeah, I like Andrade. I think she's just a much better striker, way more powerful for sure. And I'm only worried about Cynthia Calvillo in top control on the ground. I think Andrade can go out there and get takedowns of her own if she really just wants to beat her to the punch and win from top control herself. I think she could do that, maybe even get a ground and pound knockout. But I'm not worried about Calvillo off her back in this matchup. And I think it's all Andrade. It's her fight to lose. Like, maybe she doesn't come in preparing for Calvillo enough or something like that. I could see her getting backpacked, maybe rear naked choked, something along those lines. But I do not think Calvillo can consistently wrestle Andrade. Maybe she can get 1 or 2 takedowns, but I don't see that being enough. So if I was going to bet Calvillo, I would just want to take the submission prop, give me a big number, something like that, because I don't even know that the money line's not too wide on this one. I would rather take Andrade over Calvillo on the money line here. I don't know if I could go knockout with you, though, but I do think she gets it done.
I'm glad that you said that, dude, because honestly, this is one of those crazy, crazy spots where we are talking about Jessica Andrade as a -275, -280 favorite. And I almost never eat that kind of chalk. I like to parlay. I like to bring that price down. I'm tempted to lay the hammer. I feel like there's value at minus 300. Like, am I crazy for thinking that the money line just simply is not wide enough in this spot?
No, like I said, it's favorite or pass here on this one. And, I mean, really a lot of these fights on this card where they are big favorites, it is favorite or pass for me, except for that Manon Fiorot. She's like the one who's over 2-1 who is dog or pass for me. But these other big favorites, I think, are all solid parlay pieces. And if you just pick your favorite 2 or 3, throw them in a parlay, I think you got a good chance of cashing.
Round robin that shit.
Yeah, that's going to be my issue. Is I'm going to want to throw like 5 of these people in a parlay, and one of them will screw it up.
There's always one. There's always one. And Peter, come on, man. coming after me for the Andrade only fans. How do you got to do me dirty like that? Hey,
yeah, I don't know what the OnlyFans record is for these UFC fighters, though, so that might be something else to look at.
Hey, Goldie just got it done, man. I mean,
true, yeah.
We gotta start taking notice of the OnlyFans fighters and see what their records are looking like. I love that. Someone, Uncle Wheezy, if you're still hanging out in the chat, add that to your stat numbers every week, buddy. We'll talk about the OnlyFans fighters and look at their wins and loss records so we know who's good and who's not. Oh man! See, this is why live streaming is where it's at. The chat interaction makes these shows gold, man. I love it.
Yeah, you don't get this kind of stuff if you're planning everything out,
right? All right, next fight up, one that I am terrified of. Now, I know it's so funny because usually when I get a couple of wins under my belt, you guys are used to me being bullish. You're used to me being cocky as shit and coming in here on this show and telling you who's going to win and how they're going to do it. And I basically can see the matrix. And this card is not that for me. I am terrified of like 90% of these fights this week. And this is one of them. Man, Curtis Blaydes, I was all in on this guy when he fought Derek Lewis. And we know how that ended. He's coming off a 7-month layoff after being KO'd dead by the Black Beast. And I worry a little bit about his chin because that was a terrifying knockout. That's not the kind of knockout that you just simply bounce back right quick from. I don't know if 7 months is enough time. But we know what this guy brings to the table. He's the Khabib of heavyweight. He has an amazing gas tank, great wrestling, and the fact that he's fighting 3 rounds now instead of 5, not that it matters against a power puncher like Jairzinho, but you know that favors the guy with the wrestling, because if he can bank 2 rounds, that's all he needs to get his hand raised at the end of it. This man has a ridiculous 6.64 takedowns per 15-minute fight with a 54% accuracy. Nobody fires off that many takedowns and hits over 50%. Like, that's just a stupid stat number. Now, Jairzinho on the flip side of this thing, Biggie Boy is my boy. I like going to the bank with this kid. He has legitimate death touch in those hands of his. The problem was he fell in love with it. We saw it in the last couple fights, and in fact, the diehards, we cashed a ticket last time out on Biggie Boy because he came out and said that he needed to have a bigger sense of urgency. He came out and said that he needed to get back to setting up his shots and not just waiting for that one perfect opportunity. And as soon as he did that, he absolutely handled Augusto Sakai. So I think we have Biggie Boy 2.0. The only fear, again, is the takedowns. Because if he gets put on his back, if he gets grinded on, does that power stay in the game? He doesn't have 5 rounds like he did against Overeem for the comeback knockout. He's going to have to get it done, and he's going to have to get it done a little bit quicker than that. Biggie Boy's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here. And so far in the UFC, he does have an 80% takedown defense rating, so that's nothing to sniff at. Man, my first instinct was to say that Curtis Blaydes is a parlay piece and go right back to the well. But the more I look at it, the more I'm almost thinking it's a dog or pass spot where I might want to go back to the well with my boy Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And then I kind of thought maybe I just want to pass on the whole damn thing. So, Kyle, maybe you can give me a little bit of help here and figure out what side of the fence I need to be on here.
Well, I'm definitely on the Curtis Blaydes side of the fence. This is a true knockout or bust fight for me where if Jairzinho does not get the knockout, he loses the fight. Even on the feet, Blaydes is the more active striker of the two, but it's the takedowns. I think he's going to get mauled for, I would say 3 rounds, but I don't think it's going to go the distance. I think he has absolutely nothing to offer off his back. And once Blaydes gets him there, it's just going to be complete domination. If it does go to the scorecards, it wouldn't shock me to see like a 30-24 type decision in this one, just because why strike with this guy when that's his one path to victory? However, in Blaydes' last fight, it was a knockout or bust type fight, and he got knocked out. I don't know if I really want to trust him. I honestly would give him a higher line than they have it at. I like to handicap fighters on like a 5% range. So I was thinking 80 to 85% range on Blaydes, and I want value on both sides of that range if I'm going to bet somebody, which he does have that. But I still don't know if I want to pull the trigger with him as a parlay piece. What I want to do with him is use him in DraftKings. He is our DraftKings gold. If he goes out there and lands 3 takedowns and still gets a finish in the first or second round, he's just going to break the slate, 120, 140 points, which most people on this card just don't even have that type of ceiling. It's him and Merab who have the big-time ceilings on this fight, and I'm just going to be really heavy on both on DraftKings. And I can't fade Rozenstruik on DraftKings because if he wins, it's going to be by knockout. If that happens in the first or second round, then he's on the optimal lineup himself and winning somebody, whatever it is, $150,000.
That'd be sweet.
However, I want most of my lineups to have Blaydes in it just because I think this is a complete domination and it's going to come through the ground. And I don't see Rozenstruik lasts 15 minutes of that. So you're giving me plus money on ITD on inside the distance on Blaydes. I'm interested, so I can see that being a prop play. But I'm not too good at props. I don't have a good record on those, so I won't be like selling it. But that's one I'm looking at.
Okay, I like it. And you know what, man? Real quick question. Again, I'm going to just kind of dig just a little bit into the DFS for the people who ask about it and want to know. And I'm curious. People who play DFS talk about multiple lineups and entering different combinations of multiple lineups to try to get the best, try to get that optimal lineup. You're trying to just hit one out of the park. Can you give me an idea of how many lineups you have on any given night? Because, like, for me, I got 5. Because I'm brand new to this thing. I'm playing the $3, the $5. Like, I'm not putting too much in it. But when you get knee deep into it, how many lineups are you actually throwing in on one night of fights?
So it's all about contest selection. If you're going to enter the one where you're trying to win the 150,000, you're going to be playing with all the sharps and the sharpest of the sharps are putting in a full 150 lineups, the most you can put into it. And these guys are not even doing what we're doing. They're not even watching the fights and handicapping it by themselves. They're spreadsheet nerds, and they're just way smarter than us, and they know what they're doing, so they just automatically have an edge. So if you're throwing 5 lineups into that, you're automatically at a disadvantage because there's a good chance they have your 5 lineups too, and you're just going to be splitting it with them unless you're being contrarian somewhere. That's when you could throw in 5 lineups in that and maybe have a chance of taking it down solo. You just have to be different to be contrarian there. But I like to play these single entry contests where you're only allowed to have one contest in it. That way I pretty much have the same edge as everybody else in there. And they also have other ones where it's 3 entry max. Everyone at most can put 3 lineups in. I would say if you're just doing 1 to 5 lineups, I would just cut it down to 3 and enter those tournaments. You're not going to win $150,000, but you probably weren't going to do that anyways. That's more just wishful thinking, a number to get you to play the contest, to get you to deposit money, because everyone wants that big win. It's just that your odds are really, really low, so you got to be doing something that the field is not to win those. So yeah, I would just focus on contests, and if you're a one lineup person, enter single entry contests. And if you want just a couple lineups, enter 3 entry max contests. That way, these guys aren't putting in 147 more lineups than you and already using the same core fighters that you have. So it's all about contest selection. I would imagine it's kind of the same in poker. I don't really know too much about poker, but I feel like contest selection in anything is always important. But like I said, if you're going out here and you think Rozenstruik's going to win, Roxy's going to win, you don't need to. You're already contrarian. You throw 1 or 2 of those people in your lineup, and you have a chance of winning $150,000. You don't have to get too crazy other than that.
Okay. Thank you very much for the tips, man. That is definitely good to know. And shout out to my guy in the chat, Reggae Panda. I appreciate you pointing that out to me. Can you guys tell me, does it sound better? I played with the cord just a little bit. Did that fix some of the issue? Please let me know. Might need to buy a new cord. This thing might be going bad on me. All right. So we got a nice little lesson there. And you know what? Before we move on to the next fight, I do want to say, as we were kind of talking about that one, man, maybe violence is the way to go. Because like you said, if Jairzinho gets taken down and if Blaydes is doing what Blaydes does, we don't think he can survive off of his back. If Jairzinho's winning this fight, he's not going to be winning minutes, right? Like if he comes out the way he did last time against Augusto Sakai, he's going to be forcing the action and he's going to be opening himself up to get finished. He's also going to be finishing his opponent. So we think both guys are definitely on the upside as far as finishing this fight. Maybe instead of picking a side, we just go under 2.5 when they give us that one.
Yeah, I'm not against that. I was thinking fight doesn't go to a decision, but I don't think it would even go 2.5. So that's probably the way to go. Just get a little bit better line.
Okay. All right, man. I'm glad we sync up there. Yeah, people saying I still don't sound quite right. I'm going to have to listen to this one back after we get off the show. I do apologize, guys, if I got to run and upgrade some equipment. I will definitely do that. I hate to have a shoddy product here on the show, so I apologize if the mic quality is off this evening. Next fight up, the return of Nick Diaz, man. If I'm being honest, I did not expect we would ever get the opportunity to watch this fight. Oop. Hey, did I fix the mic? Does that sound better?
Yeah, you definitely did.
I'm a freaking idiot. Ugh. I got invited to do a show where I had to use my phone over the weekend, and so it was using my phone speakers, and StreamYard didn't automatically switch it back to my settings from my desktop mic. That's why I've sounded like shit all night. So I apologize to everybody that's an hour into this show with me sounding like crap. And to all you diehards out there, I am definitely for constructive criticism and feedback. Reggae Panda with the saving of the show here, shouting out that I sounded like shit tonight. Thank you very much. Everybody let me know if that happens a little sooner next time, please.
I didn't think it sounded bad, but I wouldn't have noticed until you fixed it.
Well, you know what? And you and I don't, like we talked about, we haven't done any, pre-shows. This is our first time together. You wouldn't have known the difference. You could have thought maybe that's just how I always sound. But yeah, the people in the chat know.
I mean, I listened to the show. I was just kind of thinking it was these crappy headphones I got. But I'm glad it wasn't.
Oh, man. Gotta love it. Fuck it. We'll do it live. We were talking about it before. You get the good and the bad with live shows. All right, so back to the breakdown, man. As I was saying, I just never thought we'd see Nick Diaz again. I mean, like 2-3 years ago when everyone was talking about him coming back and stuff, I put out tweets. I put my flag in the ground, and I was like, guys, give up. The Diaz brothers are done. We'll see Nate 2, 3, 4 more times, maybe. We're never seeing Nick again. And here we are. Not only are we seeing him again, but he got his shit together, and he's not fighting at 185. He's down at 170, which he's been fighting up at 185 forever. I mean, it's kind of similar to a lot of those guys that they just cut zero weight. They don't want to play the game. That's kind of what he did. He's in incredible shape. He's dropping to a new weight class, and you got to wonder how that affects his game. My problem with the Diaz brothers, man, is that they have no interest in playing the game. They're fighters. They want to go out there and they want to rough you up. They want to get into a war. They want to be the one who wins the fight, but they don't pay any attention whatsoever to MMA scoring. They don't do anything that the judges want you to do to get a decision. So unless they get the finish, you're in danger of having a fight slip away by backing one of the Diaz brothers. We know the jiu-jitsu is off the charts. The wrestling, not so much. They tend to accept the bottom position, but they always scramble well. They've got good get-ups, and the boxing is solid. Now, from what I've seen online, Diaz has been training with Tyson Fury, which, I mean, if you're going to get some boxing work, not much better you can do than Tyson Fury. He's taking on Robbie Lawler. This is a rematch from years ago, man, like way before Robbie left the UFC, went to multiple different promotions, and then came back. Like, that's how long ago we're talking about these guys fought. Robbie's had a bit of a rough skid. He's 1-5 in his last 6, but he moved out to the hottest destination gym on the planet. He's at Sanford MMA for this one. So you got to wonder what that's going to do to his game. You know, Robbie Lawler is one of these guys that likes to bite down on the mouthpiece and just swing heavies. He wings big power hooks. He looks for that knockout. And he oddly doesn't wrestle. He's like a wrestler that refuses to shoot takedowns. He did engage in the grappling with Neil Magny in his last fight, though. Turned out to be a bad idea, but he did do something a little bit different. And especially working with someone like Gilbert Burns out at Sanford MMA, I got to wonder if maybe the wrestling heavy approach isn't a bit more of the game plan. But I have questions about whether or not Robbie will shoot. He's not the type of fighter who is willing to shoot for takedowns. He wants to go to war. I feel like he wants to give Diaz the type of fight that Diaz wants. These guys are going to stand in the center and trade. Diaz has a 2-inch reach advantage. He's going to have a significant hand speed advantage. And the last time they fought, Diaz knocked his ass out. Man, I feel like a complete casual. I feel like Nick Diaz comes back and wins this fight. A proper training camp in the right weight class, the speed advantage. I can't get over all that stuff at a pick'em line. I don't think I could possibly bet Nick Diaz, though, because of that giant gaping hole that is the takedown defense. With Robbie training at Sanford MMA, if he decides to wrestle, that's a big if. But if he does, he could wet blanket himself to a win here, and I absolutely see that being on the table. So I don't know that I want my money near this fight, but it's going to be sure as hell fun to see these two get in there again. Do you have any play on this fight?
Hell no. I only like to bet if I think I have an edge, and I don't know how you could possibly think that there's any edge on this fight when you're paying juice on either side. You might as well just bet on a coin flip. That's kind of how I see it going down. I do think 5 rounds though helps Diaz. We haven't seen him in like 6 years, but these guys are triathlon type guys. So I would imagine if one thing is still there, it's the cardio. If the cardio's still there, I would think the pace will still be there, and it can hold up for over 5 rounds, where I don't see that being the same with Lawler. I don't think Lawler can wet blanket Diaz. I think it would be a bad idea to go to the ground with Diaz if you're Lawler, just because Diaz has the much better jiu-jitsu, and even from the bottom, I feel like he could maybe even submit Lawler. But I am going to go with Diaz, mainly just because I don't want a bunch of Diaz fans coming after me. But
you can't piss off the Diaz army, man.
But the worry is, I mean, the last time we saw Diaz, Robbie Lawler was the champion. And we've seen the decline with Lawler since then because he's been fighting. Now, I mean, Nick's been getting old just the same. We just haven't seen him getting worse. And I can almost guarantee he's not going to be as good as the Diaz that we remember. It's just that we have not seen that decline. So maybe Lawler, even a decline Lawler, goes out there and just beats the brakes off him, gets a knockout. But I haven't seen that shit either. So maybe he can go out there and be a little bit of the same Diaz. And with it being 5 rounds, I think he can win 3 of them. So I'll go with Diaz. But no, like I mentioned, you might as well just flip a coin with your buddies and bet on that because it's the same thing.
Okay, man. I hear you. Absolutely hear you. It's a tough spot, man, because I'll be honest, the degenerate in me wants to have at least a little something on this one. I might put some beer money on Nate Diaz just for old time's sake. The only counter
now that you're a
DraftKings
DraftKings guy, maybe get a lineup or 2 with Diaz. With 5 rounds to work with, the numbers he can put up in the striking, I think he could put up a decent score. And anytime that they're going to be pick'em type betting fights, they're going to be around 8K on DraftKings. So I like to say you need a floor of 10x. So if you're 8K, you need an 80-point floor. I think Diaz would have that in a win. Okay.
Don't mind that whatsoever. Good information to have for sure. And yeah, maybe I just throw a Diaz lineup together. Fuck it. Like just toss one in there, see what happens. Yeah, man, especially with this fight being potentially 5 rounds. Definitely, in my opinion, would favor Diaz from what we know, but it's been such a long time. Yeah, I mean, you got to think that triathlon Diaz cardio is going to hold up and be just fine. But again, we're guessing on a lot of this. We really don't know. We got iHeavy8 in the chat saying over the round total. I don't necessarily hate that. You got to wonder what these guys are like, and if they have the pop on their punches to finish early, it might be one that goes a little bit later. Definitely do not hate that look. So, all right, man, Diaz or pass for both of us. Pass for pass when it comes to betting for both of us, just because we like money. So, co-main event time. Here we go. Valentina, the Bullet Shevchenko, defends her belt again against Lauren Lucky Murphy. And we talked a little bit about Derek Lewis earlier in the show. This is the female Derek Lewis. Lauren Murphy moved out to Texas. She's training with the big man himself, and she fights a lot like him, man. She likes to keep the fight standing. She's got big power in her hands. She can wrestle. She's been using that a little bit more often lately, and she's finally getting her crack, man. It reminds me of when Michael Bisping got his shot at the title. Like, this is the feel-good story. Like, Lauren's been around forever. She's older. This is her shot. She finally worked her way to the title. I'd be lying if I didn't say I wanted to see Lauren Murphy with gold wrapped around her waist here on Saturday. But do you really fade Valentina Shevchenko? I mean, the second best MMA fighter on the planet in the women's divisions, only losses to Nunes, and one of those highly contested that maybe she got a little bit robbed on the split decision there. So incredible high-level talent is Valentina Shevchenko. Fights out of Tiger Muay Thai. Well-rounded as hell. She can grapple. She can strike. She's got nasty submissions from pretty much everywhere. And she's got a speed advantage over most of her opponents. The thing for me is the one time we have seen just a slight little chink in the armor with Valentina Shevchenko was in her fight against Jennifer Maia. Jennifer Maia had one round of success where she was able to get on top of Valentina Shevchenko and just physically beast her and control her in that spot. Unfortunately, she didn't have the cardio to keep that up for enough of the fight to actually get the nod, and then got outclassed from that point forward. Lauren Murphy is physically strong, and believe it or not, going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. She might be the biggest, strongest opponent that Valentina has faced, especially since she moved back down to 125. If there's a path to victory, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, if there's a path to victory for Lauren Murphy, it's going to be that body lock. It's going to be that wrestling. It's going to be controlling Shevchenko or just landing a lucky Hail Mary bomb. And Lucky's got the power that if she does land perfectly, there's a chance she gets it done. But realistically, Valentina Shevchenko is the better fighter everywhere in this spot. But the line is very indicative of that, man. When we're talking sports betting, it is rare that you see a 15-1 favorite. You can get plus 850, plus 950. There's one plus 1,000 hanging out there on Lauren Murphy. Is the underdog worth a 10-1 stab, Kyle?
I don't think so, man. I honestly think Murphy has a better chance of winning this fight from like getting kneed in the head while she's down than she does of actually winning the fight. Like she needs Valentina to tear her ACL and not continue. If she continues with the torn ACL, I still got Valentina, to be honest with you.
There's a handicap. You get a torn ACL and I'll still bet you at minus 200.
But yeah, but the line is saying the same thing. I mean, she's like a 95% favorite. How you see any value than that, I don't know. When nothing is 100% in this game. I mean, she could go out there and tear her ACL. She could go out there and kick her in the face while she's down, something crazy like that. And it's not going to help your parlays out much. If you like Valentina, throw her in DraftKings. You don't have to pay that much more than everybody else over there. But I think she wins every single minute of this fight. Maybe like Lauren Murphy could win an arm wrestling contest, but I don't know how she does anything else better than Valentina, like literally anything else. So give me Valentina by complete domination. And I think the way to bet this fight would be you either take her inside the distance or you take her by decision, get a better line on one of the two. And I think she's so much more dominant that I would rather take inside the distance.
Okay. I feel you there, man. That makes tons of sense. And like I said, I know I'm getting blown up in the chat. I like my dogs. I'm not betting Lauren I would love to bet Lauren Murphy, but I'm not doing that here. I I don't think that she has much of a path to victory. And when you look back at her last couple of wins, it's very suspect because I myself bet against her in the Andrea KGB Lee fight. And I've talked about this fight many times. That's the night Joe Rogan was yelling at Bro to get off his phone. She was gifted that split decision because the judges literally didn't care about that fight and just scribbled something in at the end of the show. She lost the fight to Andrea Lee. And then, if you want to talk about close fights, she fought my girl JoJo Calderwood. And I'm pretty sure, if memory serves correctly, I had a bet on JoJo that night. And JoJo outlanded her by like 50 significant strikes. I don't understand how Lauren Murphy won that fight. I think JoJo was the rightful winner of that last fight, which puts her five-fight winning streak at a much more realistic 3-2. And then one of those was on UFC debutante and undersized Lilia Shakarova, who she handled in the first round and isn't even proven to be at this level yet. So yeah, I do not think that Lauren Murphy is live in this spot, guys. As much as I love her, as much as I want to see that gold wrapped around her waist, there's no way. I do not see it whatsoever. Highly suspect on those last couple of fights. But what I do think is that Lauren Murphy is tough. I do think she is durable. And I wouldn't hate a shot at the over 2.5 here. Even though Valentina is better pretty much everywhere, I think that Lauren Murphy is strong enough to hang in there. And I think that she's good enough to defend in positions. And I could bet on her surviving 2.5 rounds. Most women's MMA fights go over. I know Valentina is a little bit special in that area, that she is fully capable of finishing pretty much anybody she steps into the cage with. But Kyle, am I crazy for thinking that over 2.5 at even money is not a half bad angle?
No, I like that. I think it would be after 2.5. If I was going to pick a time for her to win, I would say, third or fourth round, something like that. So I dig it.
Okay. All right. Well, I may have found my spot, and once 2.5 rounds clear, then I can cheer my face off for Lauren to pull the upset without anything riding on it. All right, everybody. We have done it. We have made it. It is main event time. We're talking Alexander Volkanovski taking on Brian Ortega, the man they call T-City. After wrapping up filming on the newest season of The Ultimate Fighter, which, geez, it was so nice to have that show back. I love The Ultimate Fighter. It was fun to have them back on it. Volkanovski is a guy that, guys, I'm not going to lie. I'm in the Max Holloway camp. I thought Max did enough to win the first 3 rounds of that last fight. I think Max should have that belt around his waist right now, or at least we should have seen a trilogy by now. I don't know what it is. I know Volkanovski is an amazing fighter. Otherwise, he wouldn't be the champion in this stacked division right now. But it just seems like he doesn't do enough for me ever. His style is not overly pleasing to the eye. He skates the outside. He attacks the inside leg kick. And then he flurries every once in a while, mixes in takedowns. But he just doesn't do a whole ton for me. And I find myself frustrated every single time he gets a decision win, especially when it's over Max Holloway, and Max had him rocked early and almost got the KO. That one killed me. But the fact is, this guy's got a brick for a head. When you see these guys face off, seriously, somebody like screen cap it, look at the size difference. Volkanovski's head is made out of something else. But he keeps a high volume. 6.02 significant strikes per 15 minutes. That's those leg kicks. And he only absorbs 3.31 significant strikes per minute. Even though he's the much shorter man, he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here in this spot. Brian Ortega, they call him Triangle City. That submission skill set is off the charts. You do not want to go to the ground with this man. But I don't know if he's going to be able to get Volkanovski to the mat. He learned his lesson against Max Holloway, took 2 years off, and we saw one of the most incredible level jumps in skill I think the UFC has ever seen when Ortega came back and beat the brakes off of the Korean Zombie. Man, that was a fight. That was a fight that I had a very, very bad feeling about. I was like, why are we not just smashing the Zombie here? And I decided to play the over instead, and thank God, because Brian Ortega was not the same man that we saw when he fought Max Holloway. And because of that, it makes it very, very hard for me to look back at his tape and feel like I'm pulling anything from it. I find it hard to study for this fight because we only have one real fight to look at to see what this guy is capable of in his current form. You look at the stats, he absorbs 4.29 significant, I'm sorry, he lands 4.29 significant strikes per minute, absorbing 6.28. Max Holloway ruined Ortega's stats. Those numbers lie. That's nowhere close to the truth of how this man fights. But the one fight with Max Holloway has completely shifted those numbers forever. Man, we have got the favorite Volkanovski minus 165 out there. There's been a little love on the underdog in this spot. You can get plus 135, plus 140 or so on Brian T. City Ortega. And as much as I would love to see Brian Ortega get it done, we can expect some more big jumps because it's been another long layoff. Maybe he has leveled up, but it's almost throwing a little shot in the dark there, hoping that that's going to be the case. Are you going favorite or pass in this spot? Is there value on the dog? Help me out, Kyle. What you got here in the main event?
Man, this is one's just real tough. I feel like the lines got this one right. I was thinking Volkanovski at minimum 60% favorite, and then at most 65% favorite, and they got him right there in the middle, 62.5%. So I just won't be betting this fight. I will load up on both sides for DraftKings. I think we can get a high score here. These guys are both volume guys. Well, I wouldn't have thought Ortega was a volume guy until his last fight. And really that last fight is the only reason I think that this fight is so close. Had that fight not happened, I'm lining Volkanovski 80%. No bullshit. Yeah. But Ortega looked like a new man, and Volkanovski has a wrestling edge, but you don't want to use that against Ortega because Ortega is dangerous. And even from the bottom, he could tap you out with a triangle or guillotine, whatever he gets his hands or legs on. So this is going to be a striking match if Volkanovski has anything to say about it. And as you mentioned, I don't think Ortega can get the takedowns either. So I think if you like the Ortega side, in my opinion, his best path to victory is going to be a submission. I would just try and take that like plus 500, whatever you're sitting at there. And I've been seeing like in my dreams, this guy getting a submission here and just ruining my night or something like that. But I'll have to have enough Ortega on DraftKings as well where that won't kill me. This is just going to be my favorite DraftKings fight to target. I am going to take Volkanovski, though. He's a volume machine, and I don't think Ortega can outstrike Volkanovski here. So give me Volkanovski to get the job done on the scorecards. I think Ortega's probably too tough and too good at this point for him to finish him on the feet, and I don't think we'll see Volkanovski want to take this to the ground. So give me a 3 or 4 rounds won by Volkanovski in this one.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Are we thinking Volkanovski by decision? How about that over 4.5?
I don't really play props just because I don't know how to handicap props very well. I just cap to win. That's really it. If I play props, it's just for fun or if something really sticks out to me. So I won't be playing that. But yeah, I'm going to take Volkanovski to get the decision.
Okay. Well, there you've got it, folks. I'm a little bit iffy on this one. It's another one of those ones where I just have a hard read, and based off of the improvements that we saw, the jump in skill from Ortega the last time out, I absolutely think that's something that we could run into, something that we could see again here on Saturday, but it's hard to count on. It's hard to put your money on because it really is just a shot in the dark. So if we're betting this one, especially now that number has come down, if we're getting minus 150 on Volkanovski, I mean, that's a spot I'm absolutely going to have to line up. It will be a must bet type of situation. So I'm going to say favorite or pass. I'm going to say Volkanovski. I'm not sure I'm betting this one, but we'll see what happens by the end of the week. As you all know, you got to follow me on Twitter at DieHardMMAPod. I will tweet out any and all of my action later on in the week when I do lock it in. So I'll let you know when that takes place, what I end up taking a side on. Kyle, thank you so much for rocking with us tonight, man. Thank you for breaking down these fights and giving us your expertise and your thoughts. I appreciate your time. Now is your moment. I would love for you to take the floor, give a shout out, let the people know where they can find you and what's up.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Let's do it again. Just hit me up anytime. It's a shame we didn't get to talk to Brian, but hopefully another time we will. And I'm happy for him that he got that big fight. That's awesome, and that's going to be a good one. Yeah, the main spot to find me is just on Twitter at BigMarley3. I post everything there. I work for a number of sites: Sportsline, MMA Oddsbreaker, DFS Army. I have my own site, BigMarleyMMA.com. So just follow me on Twitter. I'll be posting everything there. You can always hit me up about some fight talk. And I love doing this with you, man. So hopefully you have a good weekend. Cash a lot of tickets. Everybody listening does as well. And hit that like button, guys. Let's get this to at least 100 likes.
That's what's up, man. Hey, I really appreciate your time. This was a ton of fun. We will absolutely have you back on the show and do it again. We got 117 live viewers right now. Everybody sit tight. Don't go anywhere. We're about to talk about the Contender Series. Kyle, as we talked about earlier, man, totally your call. If you're not ready to go over Contender stuff, you're more than welcome to bounce.
Yeah, I'm going to head out. I haven't had a chance to look at Contender Series, but I'll watch your Contender Series part tomorrow once you have the pot out. Good luck, man. Good luck, everybody listening as well.
Sounds like a plan, man. Thank you again. It was a pleasure. Good luck.
You as well.
All right. So everybody sit tight, like I said. So Brian Kelleher, there's the chance, the very, very slim chance that he shows up a little bit late tonight after his training gets done. So hold your breath. Maybe he squeezes his way in here, but we will go ahead and break down these Contender Series fights like we've been doing the last couple weeks. But first, we got to hear a word from our sponsors. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast right here on Pub Sports Radio. Do me a favor, smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you haven't already. We are this close to 10K followers. So make sure you go ahead and get that like button and that follow in there for me. We're talking Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. This is week number 4 rocking up that we're talking about here. So let's dig straight on into these couple of fights. First fight up, we've got Jacob Rosales taking on Victor Martinez. All these fights are very, very interesting this week, everybody. There is a big chance that we see massive action on Tuesday night. Like, you're not going to want to miss this week's Contender Series. These are violent fighters that we're talking about this week. So Jacob Rosales, this kid lost to Jonathan Pearce, JSP, on the Dana White Contender Series back in 2019. He's gone 2-1 since then, and he trains with the Alpha Ginger. Y'all remember the Alpha Ginger, had a quick stint in the UFC. He's a BJJ black belt, and he's got underrated striking, if I'm being honest. This kid knows how to fight long, uses his range. He stands right in front of his opponents, and he likes to play the matador. He likes to counter, and when he was taking on Pearce on the Contender Series, he gassed out in round 2, which was a little bit concerning, but he decided to go to war, and he absolutely lost that battle. Bad decision. He didn't shoot for takedowns where he's got his biggest advantage until he was already hurt and tired. Now, in his most recent fight, you see him go for the takedown, go for the back, and go for the sub immediately against his last opponent, which to me sounds like he had a bit of a wake-up call, and he went, you know what? My best game is the ground game. I was striking with these people, and now I need to get back to my roots where I've really got an opportunity to win this fight. So I like what I see from Jacob Rosales. The fact that it's his second opportunity on the Contender Series, the fact that he's got a little extra seasoning definitely makes me like him just a little bit more. Now, Victor Martinez, this kid keeps a high, tight boxing guard. He works behind a very nice jab. He's got good head movement and big pop on his punches. Very accurate hands. He likes to slip and rip. He works the body of his opponents, and he's got big power in his right hand. The big thing for me with Victor Martinez is that in scrambles, he makes mistakes and he gives up his back. And against someone with the jiu-jitsu credentials of Jacob Rosales, I think that's a big problem. Right now, we've got Rosales, Contender Series lines, everybody, they move and they move quick. So he is anywhere from -145 to -170 across the market. It's important to have multiple books and shop for lines because then you can get the best number out there possible. You can get between +125 and +150 on Victor Martinez here in this spot. If I'm being honest, we've seen Jacob Rosales get clipped and hurt and rocked on more than one occasion. So if he strikes with this kid, there's a chance he gets his ass kicked. Now, if he does not strike with him, if he takes him down, I think he's got a very clear path to a submission victory. He's got an opponent that very clearly gives up his back, and he's a high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So I'm going to side with Rosales here in this spot, but I would be lying if I didn't say that I'm a little afraid to lay -170 chalk on the kid. So we'll see what ends up happening. JXD saying Martinez hasn't fought in almost 2 years. It has definitely been a little bit. John saying he's already 2-0 outside the UFC. Give him a Contender Series spot. Well, we're coming off of a hot little run here on the Contender Series, hitting a 3-1 underdog and then breaking even last week, had a sweet little parlay and had a shot with a dog to really cash in and make some money there. So I'm feeling good about my Contender Series reads at this spot. And kind of like I mentioned earlier about the UFC card where you guys are used to me being a little ballsy, a little boisterous, a little cocky when I'm coming off of a good solid win. I am being very hesitant right now, and it's not because I'm scared. It's because I saw the Matrix last week. My plays that I had, I saw so clearly, and they played out so perfectly that I'm not getting those same vibes here. I am not getting that feel of I know exactly how this fight is going to go. I don't see the Matrix. I don't see that clear path. And because of that, I'm having a hard time seeing value on these numbers. I think the bookies have been sharp, and they've lined these fights very, very appropriately. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be betting any of these. I'll get that out of the way for you right now. But I'm going to lean to Rosales there in that first fight. Second fight up, we've got Klidson Rodriguez taking on Santo Curatolo. And what we've got here is a fight between some heavy-hitting warriors. Rodriguez is tall and long. He's heavy on his feet. He's got good Muay Thai striking, vicious striking, this kid. He throws everything with bad intentions. He's got good submission defense, heavy ground and pound. He likes to throw spinning elbows and shit. He's got a spinning elbow KO, which was nasty. Killer instinct. And then Santo on the other side of this thing trains at Tiger Schulman. Very compact, small, explosive, bounces light on his feet. Big power, generates that power in a very, very short amount of time. Good timing on his level changes. And you know what? He likes to put that wrestling to work. He likes to feint those takedowns and make sure his opponent knows that they've got the opportunity to get taken down and keep them on the back foot. I saw them at the weigh-ins, made sure to check those out yesterday. There's a huge size advantage for Klidson Rodriguez. Now, that could backfire here because he's fighting a short, stocky wrestler that likes to get in on those blast doubles. So maybe that height backfires. This line is nearly a pick'em. We got -120 to -130 on Klidson Rodriguez. The comeback, slight dog on Santo, +105, +110, somewhere in that ballpark. And I kind of side with the slight favorite here. Now, I can see Curatolo having some success with the grappling. I can see him getting in on the takedowns and having that area taking place. But I can also see Klidson Rodriguez just being too much for him to handle on the feet, using that reach, using that length. The small cage kind of scares me. We are in the apex. We know that favors grapplers. So I've got a bit of a problem there, a bit of an issue there. But we will, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on this one. This is one that I'm looking at as far as a bet is concerned. I like what I see from Klidson Rodriguez. But in the apex and that small cage, I always have to favor the grapplers, and that does make me a little bit scared to go up against this kid Curatolo, which Curatolo's got some big power too. If you watch his regional scene shows, like, he doesn't look like he's doing much. He doesn't look like he's doing anything crazy, and then they just fall over. Like, he's hitting way harder than you can tell because his opponents just can't take it after a couple of shots. Locker room chiming in saying, I've got AJ and Moraes in Dana White Contender Series. So those fights are coming up. We're about to talk about those here in just a second. Something to keep in mind. My guy, MMA Locker Room, on a couple fights already. Next fight up, Stephen Nguyen taking on Theo Relang. What we've got in this spot here is Nguyen. It's his second appearance on Dana White Contender Series. He lost to Elon Cruz his last time out. Now, you may recall Elon Cruz, a fighter that I had a very brief stint where I was high on him, and he flared out of the UFC super quickly. It seems like one of those spots where it was almost a high-intensity, fluky type of knockout where he got caught on the Contender Series and was robbed of his opportunity to go to the big show. He's training out of Fortis MMA, very light on his feet, measured pressure, so aggressive pressure, but doesn't overdo it. He likes to walk forward. He's got a big body kick. He's got a stinging right hand, very, very crisp, very, very accurate, a long 1-2, and he likes that low calf kick, like a lot of the Fortis MMA fighters. Next up, Theo Relang, very active. Lots of feints. I mean, this guy never stops moving. He always keeps you guessing, but he's very hittable. We've seen him take a couple of big shots. We've seen him rocked. We've seen him hurt, but he digs deep and he fights his way back in. And he usually ends up finishing the people that hurt him early. He swings wild big punches, hard leg kicks. I've seen him cripple people with those leg kicks. He likes to attack the body, very intelligent when it comes to the diversity of his attacks here. And Theo actually has a 6-fight amateur career. This guy has a lot more experience than his record would show you if you just look at his 4 or 5 professional fights. So something to bear in mind. And in this particular spot, we do have another semi-competitive line. It looks like Win is minus 225, plus 190 on Theo. And I think I'm on the Win side of things. I do believe that Theo is too hittable. I think it's too easy to get to that chin, and it's just a matter of time before somebody takes him out. And I think the big power that Win is working with is going to be enough to get that done. However, if Theo is once again able to get his bell rung, dig deep, and fight his way back into this thing, I can see him just chopping the legs off of Win. I can see him breaking him down over the course of a couple of minutes. Honestly, for these first couple of fights, and maybe this entire card, violence just might be the key. Betting on unders in all of these fights might just be the way to go because, like I said, these are some violent sumbitches that they got going on the Contender Series this week. Yeah, John, losing to Elon Cruz is absolutely an insta-fade. That is a problem for sure. But like I said, what I've seen from this kid on the scene after taking that L, I think he's better than that. Like, I think he might have just got caught. DXJ agreeing, minus 200, way too much. I do think it's a dogger pass spot based on the line. MMA Locker Room saying Jacob is from my city, trains out of CSW with my boy Curtis. I'm biased. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's hard not to be biased, especially when you've got a personal connection there. That's why I'm always super careful betting on Brian Boom Kelleher fights because I always know my heart's involved. So we got 2 more fights here on the Contender Series. Thank you all, you diehards, for sticking with me at this point. Y'all are the real ones. Absolutely appreciate all of you. And you know what? Real quick, got a sidebar here. Speaking of the real ones, speaking of the diehards, I have to give a massive, massive shout out. Let me find my note here. I want to make sure that I get your name correct, my man. Bradley Andriski? Bradley Andriski, my man. He must have done something serious this weekend because Bradley sent me a tip for going 11-1 on my picks this weekend. If you followed me, if you worked with me on the bets and stuff at UFC Vegas 37, we killed it. And my guy Bradley must have made bank because he set the bar for tips when it comes to the amount that I've gotten from a single individual person betting on MMA fights. So Bradley, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. You are a gentleman and a scholar, and I hope we stay hot and stay right together. I hope you're still with me at this point in the show because I want to make sure you get that love and that shout out. All right, next fight coming up here. Michael Morales taking on Nikolai. I'm not going to even try. We got my boy, MMA Locker Room, already saying that he's on Morales here in this spot. And this is a spot where I'm tempted to agree with my guy. We have got a super not competitive line on what I think is a very competitive fight. Minus 255 on Nikolai. The comeback plus 190, plus 210 on Morales. And I don't understand. Morales is 21 years old, so he's super young. but he's undefeated, and he is 11-0. He's got some experience, decent amount of experience for being 21 years of age. Nikolai, even though he's older, he's 34. Like, he's out of his prime. This kid is not even a kid. He's my age. He's past the prime of his fighting career. So it's now or never for him, for sure, but he's only 9-3. So the fact that he's got that little amount of MMA experience at this stage, you got to wonder. Morales is tall. He's long. He knows how to mine that space. He's got a very stiff jab, and he fires everything straight down the pipe. He's calm for his age. He is patient. He's got good hips. Got a good sprawl. He's a little low volume, though. That's kind of the only one thing that worries me, is that he can be lulled into a very low volume fight. Once he has you hurt, he's got killer instinct in spades. This kid will flurry and go for the kill in a big way once he has opponents hurt. And I love that. That is definitely something that checks off a box for me. His opponent, Nikolai, has heavy kicks. This guy is explosive, and he attacks those legs. He explodes with a flying knee every now and then. He's very physically powerful in the clinch. He's got a strong Muay Thai plum, and he rips knees to the body once he's in that spot. And that's really been his best offense. If you look at this guy's career so far, he's knocked multiple people out with knees to the body. Like, he hurts people when he gets them in that spot, but those are his best strikes. If you do not engage in the clinch with this man, he is not as dangerous. If he's at range, he's not as much of a problem. If he's grappling, he's not as much of a problem. He keeps his hands low, and in my opinion, he's got suspect takedown defense. He waits for that one opening to explode and close the show, and if you don't provide him that opportunity, I think he's a little bit out of water. Now, in his last fight, he fought UFC dropout Anthony Ivy, and it was a very early stoppage. He hurt him. It was another knee to the body. He hurt the guy, but the referee swarmed in, stopped the fight way too early, in my opinion. So, big questions here, in my opinion, about Nikolai, and I think this line should be I think this fight should be lined just a little bit closer. I am looking at the dog in this spot. I agree with my guy MMA Locker Room. I think this line is just a little bit too wide, and it does look like the market is moving that way ever so slightly, but I think plus 200 on this kid Morales, that may be the way to go to flip a little bit of a coin here, because if he can keep that range, I think he's the better striker from space. We'll see what happens, though. I think one of these guys is going to sleep. It's going to be slow. It's going to be boring until somebody gets hit with a bomb and it's over. So, main event time. Final fight for the Contender Series. We're looking at Hashim Arkala. Arkala? No. I heard him say it on the broadcast, and you have to like rasp your voice. It's like Arkala or something like that. I don't know. Taking on AJ Dobson. And again, got to shout out my guy Locker Room. He's already lined up on AJ here. And I can't say I disagree. So I put a tweet out about this a little bit early. Hashim is incredibly hyped in this spot. But he came in and he missed weight. He had a rough cut. He came in, I think, 4 pounds overweight, but he didn't look bad. It's not a weight cut where I think it like really killed the guy. I think he cut the weight a little early. I think he knew he wasn't going to make it, so he just kind of gave up, which potentially could provide him a benefit here in this fight. And this has been bet down to about a pick'em. It was plus 110 on AJ. Money's come in on AJ, making it minus 115, minus 105. So it's nearly a pick'em price tag at this stage. Now, Hashim's got a 100% finish rate. This guy comes forward and he throws everything to kill. Every single strike that this man puts together is to hurt his opponents. He fires off hard low kicks. He's got a good jab and a nasty right hand. His moneymaker is that right hand. He's never seen round 3. He gets it done in round 1 or round 2 every single time out. He's only 6-0, but he is undefeated, and he's got a 100% finish rate. One thing I noticed is his last fight. This guy had a legit anime victory. Like, you know in anime when Trunks sliced Frieza in half and he didn't know he was dead yet until he like fell in half? He knocked this dude out up against the cage, and the guy just kind of slumps to his side. Hashim walks away knowing it's over, and the guy just like slowly tilts over to the side. It was the most anime shit I've ever seen. It was absolutely nuts. Cannot underestimate the power that Hashim is working with, and coming in on a weight miss, this is one of those ones where I would clarify that more as an advantage than a disadvantage. Now, AJ Dobson, he's got the same thing going on. Deadly speed on this kid. Deadly power. pinpoint hand accuracy. I like everything I see from AJ except the fact that he drops his hand and he's more than willing to brawl with his opponents. He banks on the fact that he can take the damage and he can hit them harder and faster than they can hit him. He's only got about 5 minutes worth of tape. He's got one fight where he went to a decision and I couldn't find it. The rest of his fights are all under a minute because he just kills everybody immediately. Now, he's another fighter that had a 6-fight amateur career, so he's got more experience than we're showing here. This is a very, very competitive fight. And again, I just think we bet violence this whole card. I just think we bet these fights don't go the distance because the power coming out of these guys, I have no idea how this fight lasts any more than a round or two. They're just going to go to war. I kind of lean AJ because of the hand speed. Speed kills, but I can't ignore the weight miss and the power of Hashem. I think that's gonna be a problem. So I'm having such a hard time. I got to give an actual pick, and I'm gonna say Hashem. I'm gonna say Hashem. It's a pick'em fight. I'm not confident in that. I don't think I'm betting Hashem. If it wasn't for the weight miss is kind of what's edging me over. I feel like that's actually going to be something favorable to him here in this spot. It would not shock me whatsoever if AJ wins this thing with the speed. But I think, yeah, John, that's seriously, as soon as I get access to totals, as soon as one of my books opens up totals, I'm going to be parlaying 2 or 3 under 2.5 or fight doesn't go the distance props. That's my plan. At this point, I don't have any action on the Contender Series. And at this point, I have one bet on UFC 266, and it's a parlay. I'm being very careful. I've got a good thing going right now. We're a little bit hot, and I want to make sure I've got good edges on my bets. I want to make sure we stay on the winning side of things right now, and I actually think that some of these fights are a little trickier than people are making them out to be. I know we've got a lot of people out there that are firing off 10, 12 bets on this fight card, and I know it's easy to get hyped up and want to have action on a big UFC card. Trust me, I understand. I'm the same exact way, but I want to make sure I'm absolutely sold on my bets before I make them. So I'm going to be careful this week. Make sure you keep an eye on my IG and my Twitter so you know what I'm locking in, when I'm locking it in, and when I make that bet. Mario, what's up, buddy? Getting a great return on investment recently. Glad to hear that, man. Absolutely glad to hear that. I finally started to turn things around a little bit, and I'm not going to lie, that feels a little bit good. So happy to hear that the show at least has been giving you some good information and putting some money in your pocket. Rogue, the parlay that I've got is Matthew Semelsberger, because I just think he's going to KO that kid with a quickness, and then Merab Dvalishvili. Those are my 2 legs. It's a little chalky. I beat the lines, so it's probably going to be about minus 150 or something like that for you now, but that's the parlay that I'm looking at. Thank you all so much for being here. The 77 of you that are left with me here this deep into the show, seriously, you guys are the real ones. Absolutely love you all. Thank you for the love and support. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, like the show for me, sub to Pub Sports so we can hit that 10K number. I appreciate you guys all being with me to this point. I'm going to get these timestamps on this video as quickly as possible for y'all, and we'll see you later on this week. We, of course, have Contender Series tomorrow. I believe the boys are going live for that. You got to check out my guy Jimmy's football show that break down the entire NFL slate. And then I have the Total Takedown, usually drops on Thursday. The Friday undefeated post-weigh-in show, which is back to that undefeated status. We're getting some good reads. Things are working a little bit better than they were. And then, of course, live stream with UFC 266 with all the boys hanging out on Saturday. I don't know if I can do a turnaround. I was on the last live stream, and my wife doesn't usually let me get to 2 in a row because got to spend some time with her and the daughter. But if I can get on the UFC 266 live stream this weekend with a fresh bottle of Fireball, you know I'll be there. So thank you all very much again. Cheers, Jake. Appreciate you, my guy. I'm going to go watch some football because right now, apparently, the Packers are shitting the bed, and I need them to score a touchdown in the next 10 seconds. So I'm probably going to go ahead and lose that first half bet that I made. Bummer the degenerate action is going to go down in flames that way on a Monday night. But good luck on everybody else's bets. We'll see you soon. Let's roll.